Hello everyone, welcome to Excellence IAS Academy. Recently, 17th BRICS Summit was held in Rio de Janeiro, which is city in Brazil. But what is BRICS? First, the BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. But recently, some of the more emerging economies of the world have joined BRICS and led to expansion. But the first BRICS Summit was held in Russia, where in 2009 it was held in Russia, when the BRICS was called BRIC, stands for Brazil, Russia, India and China. But later in 2010, South Africa also joined. When South Africa was joined, it became BRICS. So this acronym BRICS stands for a formal organization of emerging economies. Recently, the 5 more countries have also joined BRICS. In 2024 itself, 4 emerging economies including Egypt, Ethiopia from African continent and Iran and UAE from Middle East, from Asia, have joined the BRICS grouping. But in 17th BRICS Summit, Indonesia, in 17th BRICS Summit, Indonesia officially joined the BRICS Summit. The Indonesia is from Southeastern Asia. Saudi Arabia had to confirm its membership officially, but recently in 2024, Argentina officially rejected the proposal of BRICS grouping to join BRICS. However, the 16th summit, the first official summit of 2009 Russia, BRIC, in 2010 South Africa joined, became BRICS. 16th summit was held in Russia in Kazan. Okay, already you know that. And 17th BRICS Summit held in Rio de Janeiro, which is in Brazil. Okay, and the 17th BRICS Summit was held under the theme of strengthening global South cooperation, for more inclusive and sustainable governance. Sustainable, not development, but governance. The 17th BRICS Summit was held under this particular theme. But what were the outcomes of the 17th BRICS Summit? Okay, let us discuss some of the outcomes. Majorly, the first outcome was expansion of UNSC. All the BRICS members, including Russia and China, both Russia and China have membership in UNSC Security Council, right? Including Russia and China, other members of the BRICS grouping also demanded for the expansion of the UN Security Council and providing membership for Latin American countries and also other Asian major economies. Okay, this was the first outcome of the BRICS Summit, 17th BRICS Summit. And second is Leaders Framework Declaration on Climate Change. This particular statement or this particular memorandum of understanding was to gather funds and other resources to fight climate change. Because developing countries are not much capable in terms of funding or in terms of technology to fight and adapt to the ongoing climate change. But BRICS members come up with the idea of Leaders Framework Declaration on Climate Change to mobilize and also gather resources to find and adapt to the climate change. And particularly, third outcome was condemning the Pahalgam terror attack, which was happened recently in India. So all the BRICS countries, including China and Russia, also condemned the Pahalgam terror attack and expressed their very strong voice against terrorism. And fourth is African solutions to African problems. What are the African solutions here? African nations witnessing COPs, environmental concerns, refugee crisis. Okay, these kind of issues should be dealt with the solutions from African nations. Means the African solutions means native solutions. The African native solution should be taken to eradicate the African problems. And you also know that whenever the coup or military coup happens in Africa, or any environmental concerns, or any other crisis, humanitarian crisis, they are always involved of the Western countries like France, Germany, UK. All these countries are interfering in the internal matters of African countries. So BRICS countries condemn this and also express their concerns and also come up with the idea of African solutions. There should be there should be no involvement of Western countries in the African problems. This was one of the outcome of the 17th BRICS Summit. And other is two-state solution. The two-state solution with respect to Israel and Palestine. BRICS countries stated that there should be a two-state solution to find peace with respect to Gaza and Israel war. This was one of the major outcomes. And is that expansion of New Development Bank. The New Development Bank is one of the mechanisms to fund development and infrastructure projects. This is the mechanism of the BRICS grouping. Okay, BRICS countries come up with the idea of New Development Bank to fund infrastructure and developmental projects in developing countries and BRICS members. This also depicted as counterweight to World Bank, because World Bank is dominated by the Western interest like USA and other Western economies, for example France, UK. So in order to counter that, BRICS countries came up with the idea of New Development Bank, and this 17th BRICS Summit, in this particular 17th BRICS Summit, BRICS countries came up with the idea of expansioning this New Development Bank to other members, and this is one of the major outcomes. And also BRICS countries is considering cross payment mechanism. You already heard about the idea of SWIFT system. This SWIFT system acts as the cross-border payment mechanism between other major economies and all over the world. Recently, when Russia attacked Ukraine, Western-dominated SWIFT system expelled Russia from this particular system, the cross-border payment system. But BRICS countries considering its own mechanism to have a cross-border payment, that is called BRICS Pay. You can say BRICS Pay. So BRICS countries also had a memorandum of understanding in 17th BRICS Summit to make this initiative as a successful one. So these are the major outcomes. And when you are discussing the outcomes, there is always, you can say that these are the outcomes, these are the discussions in the BRICS grouping, always try to come out of the Western dominated system, right? These are the outcomes, these are the discussions of the BRICS, always try to pose a threat to Western dominated system or the multilateral institutions where Western countries are dominated. So let us discuss how this particular BRICS is posing threat to the Western dominated system or the geopolitical world order. The first one is that multipolar world or the Western interests. The Western dominated institutions like World Bank, IMF, UN Security Councils, all these multilateral institutions dominated by the Western interests. For example, USA, Germany, France, UK. All these countries always try to gain something from this particular multilateral institutions, always try to protect the Western interests or the Western developed world. Never understands the pain of the global south or the developing countries or the least developed countries. On the other hand, the BRICS countries always try to embrace the multipolar world, always try to give the voice to the depressed countries like African countries or the Latin American countries, where the nations still are in emerging or they are very least developed. So in order to make sure that these voices are heard in the international or the multilateral institutions, BRICS countries are acting as the voice of the global south. This is one of the how BRICS countries are posing threat to the Western hegemony. And second is expansion of UNSC. We already discussed that in the 17th BRICS Summit itself, BRICS countries discussed the expansion of the UNSC. And also BRICS countries always trying to push the idea of reforms in the UN and reforms in the UNSC Security Council and providing membership to the developing world. For example, India, Brazil. So these kinds of discussions always tries to threaten the Western interest in the UN or the UNSC. And third is that voice of the global South, and in the multilateral institution we already discussed this, how BRICS is trying to push the idea of the global South. For example, demanding more funding from the developed world in tackling climate change. So in order to push these ideas, BRICS always try to encash the various multilateral institution platforms to counterweight the ideas of the Western world. So this is how BRICS always try to threaten the ideas or threaten the hegemony of the US world or the Western dominated world. And the fourth is international funding. Here it is the very important point you have to consider. International funding. International funding happens through two major financial institutions, global financial institutions. One is World Bank, another one is IMF. World Bank always tries to fund developmental and infrastructure project. On the other hand, IMF tries to fund BOP crisis, balance of payment crisis. World Bank tries to fund those countries where Western interests are secured, where Western interests are dominated. And on the other hand, IMF tries to fund the developing and other major economies by putting some conditions. So you can recall when in 1991 India was facing BOP crisis, World Bank had to put some conditions to fund BOP crisis of India. So in order to tackle this particular Western hegemony, this particular international funding should be overshadowed by other multilateral institutions. So BRICS come up with the idea called New Development Bank. We already discussed. Another is the contingency reserve arrangement. New Development Bank acts counterweight to World Bank, which tries to fund infrastructure and other development projects. On the other hand, contingency reserve arrangement tries to fund BOP crisis among the BRICS members. But compared to IMF, which puts some conditions while funding BOP crisis, contingency reserve arrangement doesn't. It always funds without any conditions. This kind of funding will always help the emerging economies of the BRICS members to come out of the US dominated or Western dominated multilateral financial institutions. This will always helps to tries to come off US sanctions, right? So whenever the IMF put conditions, it always tries to secure the Western interests. But when contingency reserve armaments funds, there will be no interest for any country, because BRICS always try to promote multilateral or multipolar world. So this is how BRICS is countering the US hegemony or the Western dominated hegemony in the geopolitical global world. And also de-dollarization and fair financial system. In 16th BRICS Summit, if you remember, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted fair international financial system, where there should be a no ban or no sanctions, fair international exchange, foreign exchange. So such a financial system should be brought in, where all the interest of all the countries are secured. BRICS is doing this. How it is doing? This is de-dollarization. As we already discussed, de-dollarization nothing but reducing the dependence on the dollar. How it is doing? It is doing through trade in local currencies. And also trade in BRICS currency. BRICS coming with idea of BRICS currency. Like you heard of euro, right? Where European Union nations trade among themselves with the euro. Right, such idea is conceptualizing by BRICS. BRICS currency will pose a threat to dollar, because since 50 to 60% of the trade is being carried through dollar nowadays. Because of that, US always try to impose sanctions on the countries which always try to threaten the US interests. For example, Russia and Iran, both the countries are facing US sanctions. Since Russia and Iran, both the countries are BRICS countries, right? Iran joined recently in 2024. Right, so in order to make that there will be a reduction in the dependence on the dollar, there will be a fair financial system in the global geopolitical world order. There is a fair there is a fair trade in the international system. Right. For example, if you can remember, US always try to encash any opportunity, try to weaponize the trade. What is weaponized trade? Weaponization of trade, nothing but imposing tariffs, for example, to to secure their own interests. Right. For example, Trump is threatening 100% of tariff on BRICS countries if they go for de-dollarization. Such examples are called weaponization of trade. So de-dollarization is such an idea that it will reduce the dependence on dollar, also will reduce the threatening of USA sanctions. They are doing through various trading in local currencies, bringing up the BRICS currency, and also SWIFT system, countering SWIFT system through BRICS Pay. We have already discussed. The BRICS Pay is a cross-border payment system through digitally. This is countering to the SWIFT system. This is how, through various mechanisms, BRICS as a grouping try to threaten the US and its allies dominated unipolar world system, we can say. So BRICS always try to embrace and promote the multipolar world, where the voices of the global south, including India, also heard carefully and also solve issues in between the countries. So thank you.